Hello, everyone. Here we go. All right, we can get all started. Aladdin, turn around. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for coming and joining us for what is now the fourth day of BuildStation. I hope you guys have been enjoying the week so far and getting ready for the big push for going over this next week until Coliseum ends. And I'm excited to be able to welcome here today Robin, the founder of Raiku, being able to support the BuildStation with us, and one of our awesome super team members who have gone through the whole journey. Recently just had Pantera lead their seed round, so an awesome, incredible achievement. And he's here today to be able to talk to a little bit about his background, his story, the secrets that he was able to find through going through the fundraising journey, and to be able to give you guys the opportunity now to ask any key questions that you have. So before we dive into all of the good stuff, Robin, why don't you just give everyone a little bit introduction about yourself and dive into a little bit of what Raiku does.
Yep. Hey guys, my name is Robin, founder and CEO of Raiku. My background primarily comes from engineering, entered the crypto space in late 2015, feels like forever ago.
That is forever ago, that is over a decade.
It is. A lot has happened. Spent most of my years in Ethereum. Originally I started to focus on network performance, consensus, R&D at a project called Hyperledger. Spent a lot of time also tinkling with DevOps tooling to make it easy for developers to come into the space, to make dApps. And then since late 2020, I've been in the venture development space, working with crypto startups at an accelerator based in London called Outlier Ventures. And then after that, at an early stage venture fund as a technical lead.
Awesome. Yeah. And how have you found your journey now coming into finding Raiku? And what were like a little bit like the origin stories of how it all came about?
So late 23, it was like bottom of the bear market. Had a little bit too much time on my hands, honestly a little bit depressed because I saw so many projects coming into the space. Many of them I don't think should ever gotten funding, to be honest. They didn't really bring anything new. It felt like we were stuck, as in we couldn't onboard new use cases, new businesses. In order to do that, you need to make the developer experience, the user experience, very similar to what you have in Web 2, right? Like the performance in terms of transaction confirmation times, etc., it's way too slow, like especially in Ethereum. I think we all know that. But also with user experience, it's so fragmented. It made me frustrated, right? And I saw all of these startups come in, promise the world, but no one really could bring anything new. And then I started to look into Solana and other L1s to see, can we adopt some design principles that we've seen from Ethereum, like base sequencing, pre-confirmations, etc., to see if we can do something new? Because the thesis is rather simple. Every external system that is built on top of like a base network, like Solana, Ethereum, etc., they will always be limited to the underlying L1s and to its limitations, right? So just go for a faster L1 than Ethereum. That was like the simple idea.
And when you then started like percolating and thinking about, you mentioned about like having that little bit of like time on your hands and thinking about what you could be able to do. I remember you being able to rewriting these like big technical papers and being able to spend that time diving into all the research. Like, how did you find that experience? And is that part of your thought process personally of how you think through problems deeply? Is that something that you would recommend to other founders to take thoughts of in how can you be able to be coming up with ideas, especially when you're going deep into infrastructure? What do you find the value in being able to create these kind of big deep dives and reports as part of that journey of ideation?
So the people who is at Raiku, there's two here, Walid and Arnaud, everyone internally gets they know that I like to, deep dive into my rabbit holes. I write way too much information overload. I get into like a jamming zone. You can get quite deep and find interesting problems because of super curiosity, really. But I hate writing as well. It's like, anyways, I started to write the research paper with the Super Team and Solana Foundation, which is pretty much what enabled all of this. I think it started from like a developer tooling grant.
Yeah. And that was really cool to be able to see. I think it's one of like the really nice stories that Super Team has in the UK, especially the fact that that technical writing grant gave you the opportunity to ponder, and even if you didn't like the writing, it gave you the space and a little bit of funding to be able to just dive into that and like appease your super curiosity in it, and through that you found the problem. And I remember us having we was on a call afterwards when you was after the paper, and you were like, there's a problem here, I think I have a solution. And I was like, great, build it. It was like, it's going to cost a few million to build that. Like, and it's going to take an engineering team, and it's going to be a bit more than just like jumping straight into it.
Yeah, so
But here you are now.
in January 24, there was a lot of applications in Solana. I'm not sure what you guys are building, but a lot was drifting towards adopting some type of off-chain sequencing, off-chain computation, really. But most of them tried to adopt frameworks like, for example, Sovereign SDK, which is primarily built for other networks. And they tried to, force fit this into a Solana context. And it became very clear that would never work, because you have to go quite deep down the stack in order to solve for much more fundamental problems, especially when it comes to the failure of transactions and being able to understand and plan ahead of time when it comes to, if you want to bundle a large package of transactions, you need to know roughly that is going to be actually accepted into the underlying L1, right? So it became quite clear in Q1 24 that a lot of teams sort of adopting similar design systems that you've seen on Ethereum with like the app L2s, etc. And if we're not able to solve for like the base sequencing and state fragmentation issues, Solana would have looked exactly the same as Ethereum, because there were so many similar parallels. And then I was pretty much just running around like a headless chickens, seeing if there was actually going to be a need for this product, and it seemed like it pretty early on. And that's really important, especially for like pre-seed fundraisers. It's really difficult to prove that there is a market for it, right? Is there like pre-seed businesses here, or
Yeah. Like show of hands if you're currently raising your pre-seed.
Hey, nice. What are you building?
Music market.
Ooh, how does it work?
In a nutshell.
There you go. All right, this is your practice for your 60-second pitch.
60-second pitch. Okay.
I just cut it in half immediately.
I've helped artists raise before on chain. I saw a problem with musicians getting funded with the same label deals, so I wanted to give them a solution outside of it. I did pretty well on Polygon, raised over 100K for artists, did 5 million in trading volume, but I saw that there were certain issues with how the model was built with staking and holding and having to dump tokens in order to realize a gain on their royalties. So moved to Solana, and now we're focusing fully on trading. I should also clarify that I saw fans spend at the minimum 10 times more on swapping tokens than royalties would pay out. So I figure, why not use these trading fees and this volume, this spend, to pay out the stream and make a more valuable stream for artists. So if we created our own anchor program that allows artists to tokenize through a bonding curve, graduate to LPs, and also upload their music tied to their token. So every stream is tied to the trade. So every single trade backs a stream
So in order to get revenue, do you need the customer, the audience to
We
listen
need
to
trading
this
volume
application,
and
or-
we need music sales. So within the same Anchor program, an artist can also upload music, which on the back end, mints an NFT. Obviously, not selling it as that.
Yeah.
Like we're selling more like a Bandcamp thing, but it's a combination of music sales from high quality lossless Discogs and trading volume. So we need traders, but they come with the streamers, and then we need music sales, and that comes with the artists. So luckily, I have the artists on hand. Artists bring in the users bring the traders. Yeah.
Do the artists bring the listener, the audience?
Sorry?
Like, how do you ensure a large amount of people just listening to this? Like, distribution is going to be the most difficult thing now.
Yeah. We will get artists to do exclusive drops in the very beginning. I've already talked to our top artists, and they are more than willing to do it. Artists are hungry for any means to get more money outside of the traditional models. And if that means maybe dropping an album a week before it goes on all stores unsigned, they're more than willing to do that. Especially with the proof of validation in the market from past artists who've done it. They've seen how much other artists have made through doing some sort of tokenization, and they're willing to take a bit of a chance by uploading an exclusive track. If you put something out on a store and you can only listen it on one store, you'll get the users there because they want to hear the music, you know. Or if they want to sell limited music, similar to Bandcamp, if they can only buy it there, they will come. Every musician has a core fan base that will do whatever it takes to listen to the newest tracks.
Have you raced?
No, but I'm in the process right now. I actually have some questions with you about term sheets and stuff and due diligence and
Yeah. What's the challenge that you've met so far with the fundraise?
With the raise,
Yeah.
Well, obviously it's very hard to value yourself and how much to ask for. And I've had other people. We're talking to this one music company, and they are interested, but they're saying you should be asking for more money. And it's like, okay, well, do I make up new numbers to fit? I mean, I'll take more money, you know, but like we did all of our projections for this certain amount. So, you know, and then then we have this other VC that's saying to us, we want you to provide your term sheet, and I thought it was pretty common for the VC to provide the term sheet.
Oh, so you already got offers?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Congratulations.
It's been signed, but we've been talking to people.
Okay, fair play.
Nothing's on paper.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
How do you position yourself, like, when it comes to the distribution part? Because I assume that is the most difficult thing that the VC is asking for, right? Like,
Distribution in the means of like
to the
music
audience.
distribution or to the audience?
yeah, to the audience.
What do you mean? Like, how do we distribute in what way to the audience? Like, how do they consume the music? So it looks like a Spotify UI basically. There's two different types of consuming of music. There is streaming, which is where we take music, compress it down, and you can listen like on like SoundCloud. You just need to make an account, and then you can stream listen for free or whatever. But while you're listening, you can see the value adding token. The second way is the Bandcamp style model, where you can sell high quality lossless audio files for like for an audio file, you know, like so it's two prong approach. But both of those methods, either way the music is consumed goes back into the market cap of the token. So it's like a combination of Bandcamp, SoundCloud, and Pump Fund kind of. I mean, in a very big nutshell. I don't like to do those kind of Frankenstein things, but.
Yeah, I think it's quite cool to be able to see how that kind of evolution. I like how you were going back and forth. You notice a lot of his questions were on like distribution and access and how you're able to verify to the investor that you're able to. One of the other points was about revenue, and the revenue comes from your distribution. And so it's interesting that you're able to talk about a couple of those key points. And when you are then, because you were initially within like a venture fund and investment point of view as well, like, how are you evaluating pre-seed startups? So like those couple questions, there was almost like a live audit for everyone to be able to hear too. But generally, what do you kind of think about when you're looking at a team that's fundraising and initially going forward? And we were talking a little bit before about a couple other cool insights around that. But what do you usually use to kind of gauge that?
So early on, I was just looking at the product, like will it have a market fit on what you think, is a good market fit? But that was completely wrong, I realized. What is the most important thing is to ensure that you have absolute faith in the founder, because you're kind of finding a bit of love. Like pre-seed and seed is dating pretty much, and there's no recipe to find love. So it's all about knowing the actual founder and really get to know them deeply. And I think the most difficult part is to position yourself as a founder to say why you are unique to achieve whatever success is for your project. And that is different in every case. For Raiku, it comes down to, for us, making an ecosystem, right? If we help other founders to achieve success, that means success for Raiku. Obviously, our product also needs to be good, but that's what it comes down to, creating an ecosystem, connecting with new startups and doing everything we can to help them succeed. And how that was fitting very nicely with my background is I love chatting with founders and go deep down into the concept and build it out further. And I had already done that for about 5 years. And you build a network, right? So once we got to like the first starting point of Raiku, I was already able to call up most founders in different ecosystems, networks, and say, hey, like, do you want to use this? Yeah. And now suddenly you can prove that actually there is demand, right? So, yeah.
And that point of view there of that initial go-to-market, almost like the validation point of view, so very early on into it, it was just simply DMing people. And it's about leveraging your network to be able to do that. One thing we always tell the founders is founder market fit. And part of the little test of that is, can you just DM the people who would be your customers? Like, how much would you say that was an important part of the journey, just being able to make sure that you can validate it from the people around you? And is that a good indicator for if a founder is the right person to be able to launch a startup, because they have access to that level of distribution to the people who would use their product?
I think you can always build a network. You don't need to have the best one at the starting point. You can always build it, right? Are you able to sell it? That's the most important part. Are you able to connect with the market one-to-one, on board all of your customers manually early on? It's time consuming. I think early days I spent 13, 15 hours, back-to-back calls, and many of them are a bit of waste, of course. Like, obviously not all of them will lead to something, but you have to be deeply embedded with the market. You have to do everything you can to prove that there is a PMF even before you start, right? Which is what we did, like from January to March. And then March we started to properly fundraise in 24.
Awesome. Well, I'm quite curious, like perhaps we should continue that timeline. So your January to March, it was, I have this idea, and spent a little bit part of the early time kind of figuring that out. That's where the research came in and kind of understanding there could be a space here. Then spent a good quarter like speaking to people, really trying to validate, as you're saying, before you start, is there like actual market fit here? When did you know it was the right time to start fundraising, and how did you start to approach that?
When the market clearly said we need this, but the people with power said, no, this is wrong. This is a bad idea. That's when I figured like, yeah, this is good, because you're going against the mainstream, and you can clearly see that the people, close to the market, basically the developers, they want to see this, but the people higher up, they can't see it. And that's when I knew.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what was then like the first process, of like, you have that click moment and you're like, haha, you're up here and you don't want it to happen. You're down here and you need it. How did you start approaching doing the fundraise? Is it, I'm just going to create my deck, I'm going to do this and that? Like, what was your initial process? Because as an infrastructure project, it takes a long time to actually build the product and to be able to ship that. So it's less about showcasing full like traction stat numbers and this and that. So how did you start to approach that fundraise for the earliest founders here to get that kind of advice and experience?
Same thing as talking with the customers. No deck, just connect, one-to-one, tell your story, ask for feedback from the VCs as well, because they've seen a lot. Most likely they've seen your product like 100 times before. I hate decks. I don't think they work, especially in pre-seed, seed, and Series A especially. Yes, sure, you need it, but pre-seed, I don't think you really need it. It's just to tell your story, really. Give your insights. That's what matters.
And do you have any frameworks for telling stories or ways that you found in your previous experience to be a good way to communicate what you're building?
Start with your unique insight, whatever that is, and then position yourself in a way that makes it very clear how you got to know this unique insight, right? So with Raiku, it was showcasing that there is a fundamental flaw in the way we built and constructed L1s before, and that leads to the fundamental problem of not being able to predict what will happen when you send a transaction to an L1. And that makes it really, really difficult for enterprises, etc., because they're always hoping for the best when they send their transaction, right, to either Solana or any other L1. And the way that I position myself is, well, look, I've done all this research in the past. I worked on many different L1s before from like a fairly low level standpoint, working directly on the clients and tinkering and doing R&D on consensus mechanisms as well. So you can clearly build up like a trail of saying, well, actually, I do know what I'm talking about, and I'm also able to create a story in such a way that you can link that to market demand, right? I'm not sure if that answers the question, but
yeah, no. So you're able to find that unique insight that and showcase your story of how you came to that insight, building upon all your experience. It's interesting though, like the no deck, and I guess that's like when you talk about dating and like that kind of relationship of going with the investors. As soon as you whip out a deck, maybe it feels like you're like trying too hard, and it's like, oh, actually you're trying to get me. It's like I don't want to play that game, and it changes it up.
When I was at the early stage venture fund, Legacy Capital, whenever I saw like a deck that was super sexy, like really, really nice looking, I was thinking, nah, this is not going to work, because they're focusing on the wrong thing. It's not about the deck. In fact, yeah, it's never about the deck. It's about your story and obviously the product, but how you're able to communicate it. I think if you have a deck in a pre-seed and also seed, many VCs, they tend to just purely focus on that, because suddenly now it becomes like really tangible and they can see what the product is, but they focus too much on it, because in fact, most likely your product, definitely in pre-seed, will most likely change like completely. Like the product that I was selling in March, April, May last year, obviously shares some similarities to what we have now, but man, like it's so different. And that's why it's important that the pre-seed investor get to know you as a person, because they really need to believe in you, right? Yeah. Your ability to read the market and obviously to execute. And I think that's also the tricky part. Because if you get the VC to just focus purely on the product that you have today, it's easy to fall into traps, right? Like, you need to be able to sell the wider story, the bigger potential, right? Yeah.
Interesting. And so it's very much more leveraging that relationship with that investor. And when you're now thinking about, like, if you were to start again and you actually know nobody, you move to a brand new city and you're like, okay, how am I going to be raising capital here? How would you start to approach building that network and building those relationships with the investors?
So The reason why we got funding early on was because I chatted with some of my friends who usually were like research associates at like other funds, and got them interested into the idea. And then they tell their VC friends, hey, you should really chat with Robin, and they vouch for you, right? That is the best entry point, because, you know, cold outreach and stuff like this never works. You need people to vouch for you, and the only way you can do that is to build genuine relationships. Yeah.
And you mentioned there about like the research associates versus like a partner. Like, is that an angle that you would just suggest of like go after the people who are doing like the deep research and get their feedback initially what you're doing? Because maybe they could point you in a different direction, or they've seen something that's similar, or X, Y, and Z around that kind of like field. Is that an angle that you thought would be quite useful?
For us, it was, but you need to find your internal champion at a fund. For us, it was the ones who love deep technical problems that hasn't previously been solved before. You know, if you're building a, for example, a music app, that is most likely not a research associate, right, at a fund. Yeah, exactly. You just need to find your internal champion. That doesn't have to be a partner. It can be an analyst, like, yeah, because they will make the case for you if they really believe in you. That's the most important thing.
Interesting. And so that's like a new kind of like way to be thinking about it is, and when you're now looking at establishing that, so when you're now going through, so you've been having these different conversations with different research associates, they're helping introduce you to other key people, and you're having more of these conversations. What was it like then starting to close deals? You know, and was it fast, slow? How did you find that momentum? Did you learn anything from being able to, like, I got one and I leveraged that to get the next one? How did it then start to move?
Yeah, so in pre-seed, we got a few term sheets roughly around the same time, actually. The most difficult one is obviously to get your first term sheet. And then you will most likely be faced with the question, should I leverage that term sheet and like message other VCs to say, hey, we have these terms, do you wanna send us one? I think it's, yes, obviously send them a message to say, hey, we're gonna close up really soon. If you don't, you know, send a new term sheet, but you don't wanna be looked at as a founder that is shopping, you know, with different VCs, because it looks bad. It looks bad. And another important thing is you want to be able to time the outreach for the different funds in a strategic way. So, for example, an early stage fund with only 2 people, you know, they can move super fast compared to a larger fund with, you know, 50 people. So the due diligence stage might be, you know, 3 months, but the larger fund compared to like 2 weeks. And being able to time that in such a way, such that you can receive multiple term sheets in the same time period, that's key.
That's quite a smart way to think about it. And is there like a general rule of thumb you would advise the founders to think about that, of like these are the typical sort of due diligence time windows that you would expect? And you talk about the size of the team as like an indicator towards that. Would there be any rough kind of guidance you would be able to provide them there?
If you know roughly the LP base, so the people that give the fund money, essentially, you should be able to make a high-level profile of that particular fund and their due diligence, you know, stages. If a fund has, you know, bigger grown-up funds, let's say, as LPs, they have certain responsibilities to do a very in-depth due diligence compared to a smaller fund that may have, it's bad to say like amateur capital, but compared to the bigger funds, just look at their LP base, essentially.
And then in that then part, when was so it was in March, and we just finished up the conversations. starting to have these investor conversations. How long did it take you to then close the pre-seed?
Oh, do you remember, Walid? I think it was really long, wasn't it?
4 months.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's because we closed the funds and then the angels took.
Oh, funds were like quick, but angels, man, they don't wire their checks. Like 4 months, 5 months.
Yeah, I think the question that we faced was, should we bring in a lot of high-profile angels, or should we just focus on one or two? Initially, we went for a lot of angels.
I think the strategy for pre-seed should be like try and spread a bit further, and then pre-seed is like your own conviction from larger angels, larger checks.
Yeah, so like for context, in pre-seed, I think we brought in 30, 40 angels-ish. That was a nightmare to close, my God. But seed, I think it was 5.
Yeah, 5.
Yeah, which was a lot simpler.
Yeah.
So yeah, it takes time to close.
Yep. And so what was in the now that then transition to pre-seed to seed? Because you recently announced out the seed probably about a month ago now, maybe a few weeks. And so what was in that whole journey? So being able to, 4 months afterwards, you started fundraising, was able to get out the pre-seed. What actions did you then take to showcase investor confidence, to then build you up to the point that now we're ready to then like open up the next round, and what just that decision process and that journey?
So pre-seed, initial idea, lots of potential, but maybe not so much execution. Seed, lots of execution. Pretty much, that's what you want to showcase. Plus a lot more PMF potential, right? So setting up many more customer reference calls that can vouch for you and the product. That was the biggest difference between pre-seed and seed. So a lot more complexity there, for sure.
And was there any difference from the raising perspective in terms of still being able to have different conversations with investors, kind of get their feedback on where you're at, to then being able to be timing the term sheets so that they're all kind of closing around the same time? Because I think one big thing for you guys was Landing Terra is a very big name as well. That surely helps as that lead investor to be able to be backing it. What was that journey like, being able to like bring them in and being able to use that as like a leverage to then be able to grow out and come further around?
So pre-seed, I didn't really time it well. I think I spoke with probably 60 to 70 funds, but I contacted them all like sporadically. And that made it difficult because you couldn't time, like you set the pace, right? It's important that you own the pace of the fundraise. And I did, I made a mistake in pre-seed because the funds were the one that was setting the pace, not me. Seed, we timed it much more punctually. So we started the fundraise 17th of March. We had a target list of, I think, 10 funds whom we knew had the capability to invest the ticket size that was needed for the seed. Flew into New York, had one-to-one meetings with every fund to establish that personal connection. And then I think it was 10 days later we closed. So the biggest difference was we set the pace and we had a very clear outline of the funds that we knew had some sort of similar thesis that would resonate with Raiku.
And how did you set up those 10 meetings? What was the process there? Because even that, like one stint in New York and all of these back to back to back, what was the process for being able to close those and get those meetings in?
I can't really Walid, you set that up.
Hustling, like, I mean, no shame with like reach out. I mean, just, follow-ups and just being organized from like really like early on, I would think. Trying to dictate your own calendar versus like trying to ask what works for them. Just say like, we have these 4 slots, like on these 4 days, what works best.
And I think there'll be space to go into questions in a minute, so everyone can think about their key questions to go into it. And so the last one for you, As you were then now going through this whole journey of being able to have this big announcement, now it's really things moving forward, going to market. How are you thinking to further on? Are you thinking Series A? Are you thinking the next stages beyond this? What is next on that journey for you?
Yeah, we are. I always try to think 12, 18 months, but just at a high level, because you need obviously to know where you're going. We know that what we're doing is quite capital intensive in order to build the various different product lines and be aggressive on distribution. So at the beginning of this year, we already knew that we were going to do the seed in around the March period. We already had discussed plans for doing a potential Series A right before mainnet. So these plans are like set way in advance because you need to coordinate with your internal team on, this is what engineering team needs to achieve in each quarter. This is what marketing and growth need to achieve, because every fundraise, there's different requirements, right? Like Series A is definitely a lot more different than seed. So yeah, this is set way in advance. Did that answer the question?
Yeah. And then I guess we're all ready. Cool. Who would like to ask the first question?
So you mentioned when you were pre-seed that you had 60, 70 different conversations with different people, right? I have found, like you said, like cold calling never works, and the best conversations are people who've come to me or like our team and asking us. So, but I haven't had 60 or 70. So I guess my question is, did all of these 60, 70 people come to you, or did you do any kind of outreach to get to them? And yeah, because I mean, I've noticed I've had more conversations, more people coming to me, but not 60, 70. So I want to know how you get to that number without doing cold outreach.
So I think I probably knew 10, 15 of them early on, but then they make the introductions. The most important part is that they believe in you, right?
Did you do like finder's fee contracts with people or anything?
No, don't do that. No, that's bad. Don't do that. Yeah. Everyone that comes to you and say, well, we'll help you fundraise, but we'll take 3% of, horrible. And most likely they work with other funds who's desperate for deal flow, which means they're not a good fund.
Okay.
So.
I wish I talked to you earlier.
Have you raised though? No, not yet.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's fine.
So I'm all right, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know the context that I assume you're working with someone that said they can help you, will take a fee? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know which funds that they are in the contact of? Have you kept track?
They've introduced me to a couple people, but they haven't been very open about specifically what funds it is.
Yeah, just cancel that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Who wants to ask the next question?
Hi.
Hey.
My name is Jose. I have a question regarding when you was making the part of the fundraising. Was you preparing, for example, like a data room, or what was like which mechanism you used to show you the investors that you would something they can invest on, or how you was like? Yeah, normally, for example, in my case, they ask for a data room. We create a data room with the save, with the forecast for 5 years, and a lot of things that they normally ask. We just do it because we want to be prepared for the VCs. Because right now we are looking for a lead investor, because we are also with angels. We have like 12, but there are small tickets like 25, 20, like the 12, they may 130 or something like that. But we are negotiating because we want to have a VC, because if you have a lot of investors, then in the next round there will be a lot of problems, like you have to
Are
make.
you pre-seed or?
Yeah, we are like, actually I have a startup in cybersecurity, but for the Coliseum I'm making something in fintech that I'm doing, but I'm looking for the same. But I'm just asking you how you make it, and you raise all the money here, or you also from US, and how you make it?
Oh, where the investors came from?
Yes.
Mostly US, like 90%.
Okay, and it was easy for you, like because the project is Web3 blockchain, like was angels, or you have a lot of VCs, or just angels at the beginning?
Oh, no angels in the beginning,
Hmm.
only funds, and then angels later. Yeah. But what was the question in regards to
The
how do
first one
you
was the data run. Like,
data room?
yeah, like how they may do due diligence with you. How
Oh,
because normally if it's a found, is if an angel like is normally like talk with an angel in 2-3 weeks they want to sign something. They want to sign something. They just check some things and that's it. They just like you. They don't check all these things. But when I'm talking, for example, right now I'm talking with BNP Paribas in Paris with the fintech because we want also the permission to put credit cards like Visa and Mastercard in our application because it's payments. So to work with them, we have to make a pilot. We have to work with it, but they also make a due diligence, like that kind of things.
but the numbers you come up with, they're all, taken from there. Since you don't have any numbers previously, they're just
No.
informed assumptions, right? So you just want to be able to paint a picture, because the data room you have now
It's just
is
pilots.
most likely not accurate. So you just want to be able to paint a picture on the return profile that the VC can have, 5-10 years into the future.
Yeah.
But if you're talking with BNP,
Mhm.
they
It's
probably have a
with-
few
it's
different
with-
requirements than
with plug and play. Yeah.
Sorry.
With plug and play, they have us like a
Oh,
program.
okay.
It's
and
plug
play.
and I'm talking with BNP Paribas, like the open innovations, because they like fintechs and they like blockchain. They want to integrate something into BNP Paribas, like something like Revolut, but for the young people and all these things, because BNP Paribas is more for enterprise and businesses and all these kind of things. Then plug and play have a accelerator thing, something with the Station F in Paris and all these things. But yeah, we was looking for that, and they asked also for a lot of things, and yeah.
I think the most important thing is that you
Yeah.
just want to be able to showcase that you know how to commercialize this and produce a good return profile for the fund, right?
Yeah. Like how I
They
made
know
revenue.
that. Sorry.
Like how I made revenue.
Yeah, like they know that the numbers you put on a spreadsheet now is just, but
Yeah.
make it clear and be open to say, like, look, this is what I think is roughly the case, and just paint a picture. That's the most important thing. You want to showcase that you have the ability to think strategically on the revenue streams, etc. I think that's the most important part, not about really the numbers, right?
And can I show after I want to show you something I'm doing, and if you can give me feedback.
Oh yeah, well,
would
I
be
would love
amazing.
to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone have a key question while I'm standing up? Where's I got one more? Oh, there we go.
You seem to be very grown up as a team. So how did you guys start your journey as co-founders? I can well guess that's your co-founder here. So what's the story here?
No,
Okay, no. But
it's
so
not.
what's
But we used to work with each other before, the venture fund that I mentioned earlier. But your question was how.
how was your how did you form the initial team and do you have a co-founder, you're a sole founder, and what's
Yeah.
the story there?
So, yeah, early on it was just me, where I just pretty much told my story to try to convince the funds that look, there's potential here, but many of them were like, okay, where's your CTO? So I talked with, my friend network. I had potential people who could be head of engineering, but it wasn't the best fit. Then, you just need to find people who jam with your underlying thesis and idea, right? Like by random chance, really. I'm not sure if there's any recipe here, but you just want to be able to showcase that I'm able to attract the best people who are relevant, and that's it, right? Do you have a co-founder or?
Yeah, but you attract really good people. So
I think we do, yeah.
And it seems like you have a very grown-up approach to the whole thing.
What do you define as grown up, though?
Well, there is this Wild West stuff. I see the opportunity and I'm just going to build because I see that there is narrative. That's the usual go-to in Web3. And there is the other side of the table, which is like, there's this niche here. Nobody has solved this. And it looks a bit crazy, but who can join the journey it's about like, it's not a short-term thinking, definitely, and by hearing the whole story today, you come across very genuine and like straight to the point. And I was wondering how you select the people you work with, because I'm wildly guessing that a lot of those guys here are going to have a lot of problem with exactly that. So.
You know, my weakness is that I take a lot of decision on good vibes, but that's also, you know, how you find the good people, because you need to be able to, you know, you recognize instantly when you know, get into a flow state and you can just talk and talk and talk about the ideas and the thesis that you have, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're able to attract a lot of great talent, you know, because we're not chasing the narrative. We want to actually solve a fundamental problem. And as I was talking to many of the recent engineers and researchers who joined, you know, I think a lot of them feels a bit lost, exactly the same that I was feeling in like November 23. I felt a bit lost and depressed, like, man, where is Web3 going? This is not looking good. I think we're able to give them hope again, and to be able to like work on something that is fundamental. And yeah, that's the only way you can attract the best people, right? Because the best people want to work on complex problems that matters. They don't want to work on like, you know, just the next, you know, hype cycle lasts for 4 months and then rebrand as, you know, .ai. You know, that I think, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. This is like, it's really rare to have this convo with anyone almost across any ecosystem, so it's cool.
You know, I think it's because like many, you try, you know, when you're like a try hard and you sell, you just want to sell, but you don't want to tell your story and like genuinely connect. If you're able to genuinely connect, you know, that's what will unlock, you know, the relationships, right?
100%.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that genuine connection is so important. And you talk about it all the way through that whole story as well, from connecting to the investors, to connecting to the customers, to connecting to your team. Like, it sounds like it's a very genuine part of your story and what you're able to build and the future of Raikou.
Yeah, and with genuinity comes, you know, transparency mostly, and trust. Trust is so important, because at the end of the day, you know, doesn't matter if you join in the first month or, you know, month 15, doesn't matter. You're in the trenches together, and you need to be able to trust your, you know, your fellow brother in arms. So, yeah, very important.
100%. I love that. And for everyone now listening going forward, what would you say you want them to do next when looking at Raikou? How can they get involved? What's the next stages for them?
Well, just talk to me, message me. I'm here. You can use Raikou in so many different ways, but it completely depends on your use case. You know, at the end of the day, there is many different transaction types and like underlying primitives that we enable, and you can bundle them in different ways to make your application unique. So I think it's more of a conversation in the beginning. Yeah. And, you know, we love chatting with founders and helping to develop the concept and maybe even, you know, new product ideas. So yeah, that's a start.
And that was the interesting builder program you guys were curious about and looking into, and being able to create these boutique spaces to really dive deeper and work with these founders so that they can get the most out of the product.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we'll open the builds program in, I think, a month or two.
Okay, cool.
It's not going to be many startups that we'll work with, because I think, you know, the typical accelerator program where you go through like a program and it lasts 3 months, like that usually never works. You have to work with the founder for at least 6 months, but probably a bit longer, like 8 to 12, because you need to be in the trenches with them together. intensely for 6 to 12 months. And yeah, that's what we will do. So we'll have a builders program with probably a limited number of startups between 5 to 6, and just double down on that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, everyone should look forward to when that opens up. It's going to be a great opportunity. Oh, and I see we've got a question as well. Twyla?
Can we get more information about this builder program? Is it possible? Can you give a short introduction? What's it about, and what are you looking to help the founder with, and what are you looking to get out of it? Thank you.
Yeah. So we're designing the builds program. Honestly, it's quite simple. It's nothing complex. But we're designing the builds program based on my experience at the other accelerators like Outlier Ventures, but also venture funds. Like usually in month 1 to 2, the beginning, it mostly consists of intense one-to-one calls, just talking about product, reiterating again and again and again and again. To ensure that there is a potential PMF. So that's the usual start, and then we'll plug in different mentors who can, come with different perspectives, right? And also the market, because I think we're in a quite unique position as we're building an ecosystem at Raiku. We have a pretty broad network, and we can just plug, startups into that to help boost the process. And then from month, let's say 3 to 5 or 6, it's all about execution. So building, seeing if we can help to raise funds. What Raiku wants to get out of it is simply to build unique products that can enable new things really on distributed networks, because that's what we enable, and we just want to make sure that new products come in that can adopt the primitives we enabled in unique ways.
Awesome. Well, I think that's going to be a really cool program, and hopefully we can be able to get some Super Team UK founders in there as well.
Let's go.
There we go. Well, appreciate everyone for being able to come and join us today. Robin, appreciate you being able to spend your time and share with us your vast experience. You'll be around here now as well. So the chance to be able to have a bit of one-on-one time, we'll have a little group session for all the different developers to be able to dive into. When you talk about Raiku being able to be used across many different verticals, this will be a chance to dive into that and see how we can help Raiku unlock what you're building. So yep, stick around for that. Everyone watching at home, thank you for being able to join us. And Robin, cheers.
Thank you.
Big round of applause.